Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That is the podcast about itself, ourselves, and the self in general. My name is Ty. I am your host, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Distance. How are you doing tonight, man?
Can't complain about it, man. Can't complain about it.
Are you not complaining because you don't think I want to hear it, or you really have nothing to complain about? I do. I would love to.
I really have nothing to complain about.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Then I envy that. That's awesome. So tonight, I mean, we're going to be talking about something that I think is a problem for pretty much everyone, right? It's pretty like across the board, like something that we all deal with, which is procrastination and maybe a lack in work ethic, or how to sharpen or hone one's work ethic. So I want to jump right in and not procrastinate. So what is? Sorry, that was the low hanging fruit. I apologize. What are your first things to say about this? How do you feel about the topic? How has it affected you?
Can we just do this later?
Oh, god damn it! That was the wrong clip. Well, I guess that causes procrastination too, right?
Yeah, I feel like that actually, if that was, it was well put. If you hadn't said anything, everyone would have believed that was the right clip.
Fuck yeah, no, that was a mess up. I still don't know my sample board, but okay. So, but yeah, I mean, like we said though, this is definitely something that I feel pretty much everyone struggles with. Even the people that you can go to online and find videos where they like motivate you to try to like deal with procrastination. I think it's coming from a point of they've had problems with this and this is how they got over it. I think it's just part of humanity or human nature that we don't like to do shit a lot of the times.
Yeah. And we're just two people doing the exact same shit as those people on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like we are talking about this thing that we also have problems with. But I mean, it's like, I guess you have to have any kind of credibility, you have to have difficulties with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because for a lot of us, do you remember our senior project in high school?
I remember what I did. I don't remember what yours was. What was the subject of yours?
You and I, I don't know how many days before it was due, but you and I went to the freaking library, that shows our age, and we pulled at least a couple all-nighters, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
It was actually the public library, and I don't know that we even got anything done while we were there.
Sounds about right.
But it was it's funny because not only have we experienced it, but we've also been around for each other's procrastination in our childhood.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot to unpack, really. But I think there's actually a TED Talk. I listened to it a while ago, but it's this guy, Tim Urban, and he talks about...
Isn't that a country music star?
That would be Keith Urban.
Okay, shit. All right, that was close.
Yeah, I mean, Urban. It's an uncommon last name, I think. So he talks about what it's like inside the mind, and he gives a graphic of a cartoony head with a little cloud in there, and there's a person holding a wheel on a ship.
Okay.
An old school ship.
Yeah.
And it says rational decision maker. And it's but the procrastinator has this other thing in their head. It's the instant gratification monkey.
Okay.
And so the instant gratification monkey is next to the rational decision maker. And then the rational decision maker is hey, we could get all this stuff done and get this done quickly and do it in a non-stressful manner if we just start now. And the procrastination monkey's nope. And so then we could do this yeah, but we could start watching I'll just make something up. We could start watching YouTube videos of how to score a whole lot of points in a 2-on-2 basketball game and somehow end up watching a brief interview with Taylor Swift on how she named her cat.
I'd watch that, honestly.
And we could do this for 3.5 hours instead of that.
Yeah.
There's a hilarious example he gives where he says, so yeah, we could work on this, but what we should do is open up Google Maps, zoom in on a 200-foot section of India, then scroll all the way up to the top to get a better feel for the country.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
It's like just crazy shit. And so then he says that but then there's something that looks out for the procrastinator, and there are times of darkness,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the panic monster.
Ooh, yeah.
And the panic monster is the only thing that the instant gratification monkey is afraid of.
Yep.
So like right before the project happens, or needs to be done, the deadline approaches, then the panic monster freaks out and starts going nuts, and then the entire system's thrown completely out of whack. The instant gratification monkey doesn't want instant gratification, and the rational decision maker's in a panic. So then they panically get this thing done. But he talks about the fact that there's some types of procrastination where there's no deadline.
Oh yeah.
And that's the worst kind, because the thing is like, say what you want to about procrastination, but it is kind of impressive the degree of focus it takes to shred through a project that should have taken you 2 months in 2 days.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you can do it well, which is a big if, because a lot of people don't.
Have you ever heard, like, I don't know if I'm quoting it correctly, but it's like the like work fills the time allotted, basically. And then it's kind of like, I mean, if you do procrastinate for those 2 months, but then you're able to actually get a decent job done in 2 days, that really wasn't a 2-month project when you get down to it. It's like once you actually focused 100%, if you were able to like knock it out in 2 days, that was not a 2-month project. But
yeah, and there's I know I talk about the guy a lot, but it's because he's got a lot of good points. Jordan Peterson at one point was talking about study habits. He's like, so how long do you study when you go to the library? 3 hours? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You study for 15 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. You may be there for 3 hours.
Messing with your phone, you run into somebody that you want to go grab a cup of coffee, all this other shit. You get distracted by this other book, and then there's only 15 minutes of real studying. So it's like, maybe instead of going there for 3 hours, why don't you just schedule 30 minutes and focus?
Yep.
It's the same kind of thing. So, but that's the thing, is that if there's no deadlines, though, it's like, well, when?
Yeah. Like the big life events and things like that you're just constantly putting off that you don't want to do. And that's kind of what becomes like the bucket list later, right? When you realize that you're aging and all of a sudden there's a deadline that's death approaching, then you may start to try to scramble and the panic monster sets in. But
yeah, because the deadline is a deadline. Like, nice. That's it.
Yeah.
and a lot of people, I think, don't really consider that or realize that, because that's the whole thing with procrastination, is that instant gratification monkey that Tim Urban talks about is very appropriately named. Because it's and it's not even like bucket list type shit. Like, oh, I haven't gone bungee jumping yet, which by the way, I haven't gone bungee jumping yet. Oh shit.
You keep wanting me to go with you, and it's not going to happen.
Panic monster. So, but it's just like doing the fucking dishes.
Yeah, that kind of shit. Yep. Yeah.
Or like sweeping the freaking rug. Or like whatever. Well, yeah, I can give you an example. This morning, I was like, man, my toilet's kind of dirty. I'm going to clean it right now. So I just sort of did.
Yeah. That kind of stuff I've never really had a problem with procrastination with. It, like, the big projects and stuff like that I'm pretty bad with, but I don't know why. I've actually never thought of it, but I'm pretty good at like keeping a schedule with that stuff, where I know like once a week I need to do this, then I need to take out the trash on this day, and I need to do, and I just kind of keep to it, and it's not difficult for me to do. I don't know why, because normally, like with a lot of other shit, I'm really bad with procrastination. I'm not sure. I need to like evaluate how I do those things and try to apply that same strategy to other areas of my life. I think that may be beneficial.
The fact that you have a routine, I think, is helpful. I mean, if you just make a freaking schedule, like, and a lot of people are afraid of making a schedule. And it's like, well, how? Oh man, you'll never be able to do what you want to do. Like, are you kidding? Look, man, I got 2 hours, 4 o'clock to 6. I'm playing video games. Actually, yes, I can do it. It's on the schedule.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say that I watched I think in preparation for this or another week, I watched a video that was Jordan Peterson talking to his class, and he was making that point that like the schedule, you create your ideal day. Basically, you schedule in the things you want to do. You don't have to be afraid of a schedule when it's budgeting time for the things you want to do. It's just you also need to give time to the things you need to do but don't necessarily want to do.
Right. Yeah. And I think the fact that you've got it like a certain day this thing happens, whereas like me with that stuff, I guess kind of like on Saturday, I suppose I do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like do laundry for sure and whatever else needs done.
We've got a question in chat that I want to address. I guess I'd probably for both of us. The Big Dog 79 asked, "Did your parents instill routines in you?" I don't know if mine came from I guess part of it, yeah. But also some of it was just kind of, like, okay, well, I know that trash is going to be taken down to the street on this day, so I need to get the trash from my bathroom and my bedroom the day before that, or whatever, But what about for you? Was it like parental created or self taught?
They fucking tried. Yeah. There was a point where, see, that's the thing is that with because I heard one of the words that, and we probably watched the same because I watched that a couple of years ago. I think actually, Jordan Peterson talking about the whole schedule thing.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the word tyrannical, like that. Some people think of the schedule as you being like a tyrant to yourself.
Okay.
And when I was younger, there was a point like in the summer where my parents attempted to like make a schedule for me, but it was tyrannical.
Yeah.
Because it was someone forcing me and not allowing me to have any part in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no what I wanted to do on there, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not the guideline of, what is the best possible day.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that. So, I mean, they tried, I guess. But I think that for me, at least, the routine came from necessity, really. I started to get into lifting weights, and I started getting into cycling and stuff like that. And when I train for races and stuff, like I have to have a routine. And I mean, the human brain is built for routine, right? It's the reason why neither of us remembers the drive to work this morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're built to tune out those things that are just kind of repetitive and noise. Like, yeah.
And routine helps. I mean, when you're having to spend a lot of your time on doing a certain task, like training for a bicycle event, or just trying to take care of yourself to support like a weightlifting hobby, you don't really have time to not have a schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that same thing happened to me with like doing like the whole meal prep thing. It was like, it became necessity. Like, okay, if I'm trying to pay attention to my nutrition, I need to prep my meals, or else I'm going to eat shit that's bad for me. If I don't have meals like ready to microwave, that's a necessity. And then just like going on Reddit and reading about other people meal prepping, there was a subreddit called Meal Prep Sunday, and that's how Sunday just kind of became my day that I do all my meal preps. And it was like, there's really no other reason other than I was like, oh, I guess a lot of people use Sunday. It's the day that I'm off work. Why not? Like, and that was like, I mean, that's I wouldn't call that self-taught because I looked at others online and everything, but that it mainly spawned from necessity, like you're saying.
Yeah, I think when you try it out, you realize that it's effective. Like I even had a conversation with a friend of mine today about it, and she has like this weird anxiety about a schedule. And she doesn't like the idea because it feels tyrannical to her, like that she's not able to do what she like needs to do. And then I actually I found several different videos and a couple articles on making a schedule and why it's a good thing. And I don't think a lot of people realize how good routine is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've told you or not in the past, but sometimes if I get to a point where like I'm really down, like I can tell you, man, like I've not been having a good time for the last couple of weeks. I will actually create a really strict routine for a little while. And like I'll just get into that.
Yeah.
And that actually helps me to regain some amount of sanity, I guess, or helps me to not feel so like down about stuff.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of like, not to like, simplify depression or things like that, but it's like a lot of the time feeling down and mulling over things or whatever, it comes from the freedom of being able to do that. If you give yourself a more strict schedule and you just don't have the free time to do that, but by necessity, you're not able to do that. You're too busy doing other shit.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I think that's a very good idea. Yeah.
And so it looks like the Big Dog 79 in the chat, the same person that mentioned the parents instilling routines, that just like deadlines scare the F out. You can say the F word on here, Big Dog. You can say fuck. We say it sometimes.
That was wholesome. I like that.
Deadlines scare the F out of you. Okay. But yeah, that's the thing. The reason why I think deadlines scare people is because that means at some point you can't put it off anymore.
Yes. Well, and also
so,
I know for me, speaking from like the perfectionist in me, a deadline means at some point I'm gonna have to call a project done, and that to me is terrifying because like everything can always be improved. It's like once I actually have to like say this is finished and turn it over to someone, or like accept a finished product, that is terrifying to me. Oh yeah, I don't know Big Dog, I don't know if you were here for the first few minutes, but we were talking about an analogy of the basically like inside the mind what happens with procrastination, and at the end, getting near that deadline, there's a panic monster that shows up and scares away the oh shit, what was the monkey?
The instant gratification monkey.
Yeah, the instant gratification monkey. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there is the accountability thing. Like there is something about telling people that you're going to do something, or someone telling you that this needs to be done by this time. That can be really difficult. And sometimes it'll happen at work. Like I had to take a business communications course when I was in school, and they taught you how to be clear about timeframes. But the cool thing is that by teaching us how to be clear, they also taught us how to be unclear.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
So they'll be like, when is that? When do you think this will be done? Soon. Like as soon as possible. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you Wednesday. I'm not going to tell you 3 p.m. I'm just going to say soon. Yeah. Because if I tell you a time, that means it has to be done by then.
Yeah, the non-specific terms like that work really well for avoiding deadlines.
And I think that our brains are really just very good at making excuses. And that's really what procrastinating is at its core. Is coming up with some reason, some rationalization why it doesn't need to be now. But there's a period of time in my life where, have you ever seen the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
So it was before the movie came out, but it was similar to that. So if I realized something needed to be done, it got done right then.
Okay.
But it's funny because actually the girl I was dating at the time found that very annoying, because we'd be having a conversation and be like, oh, and I'd like leave the room to go do something. And she was like, why do you do that all the time? Like, well, like the time to do things is now. It's right now, every single time. Now. Shit, I need to restring my guitar. Like it's just, and it got a little neurotic, but the whole idea was to convince myself that that's when everything needed to be done. The moment it enters your mind, go do it before you forget about it. And that's kind of what for me sort of built that up. I became deliberate about it.
Yeah.
And I think that procrastination is like any other thing. If you really want to stop, you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't, you just won't. Like if you want to continue to make excuses and like use whatever crutch you can find or rationalize however it is that you want to, pose a weak argument to yourself and accept it, then you'll just keep doing that. And most of us are very good at that.
Exactly. Yeah. And why is it so much easier to avoid procrastination when it's something you have passion for? I mean, I guess, is it just the disinterest of, like the menial tasks or things that you have no interest in, so you always want to put those off? Or what is your opinion on that?
I think that everybody dislikes the mundane. Everybody dislikes the routine. It's like you're not gonna. Well, I mean, I don't like these, but some people do. You're not gonna wake up in the morning and we were supposed to go on a cruise, but let's just wait till next week. Like nobody does that.
Well, I mean, that's a bad example though, because you have like reserved tickets, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Or like, I don't know, that deep sea fishing trip on my boat that I own, that I have control over the time and usage of. Let's just not do that today. I think that, the novelty is something that really makes people I don't know the word to use. Enthusiastic. Novelty makes people enthusiastic about things.
Okay.
And enthusiasm is not something that enthusiasm is something that the instant gratification monkey likes.
True. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, ooh, this is something novel and cool. Like, I will instantly feel good about this, and this will be awesome. But it's the same kind of stuff too. Like, I'm gonna quit smoking when I turn 30. Like, really?
Probably not.
Just do it now.
Yeah.
Like, if you really wanted to, you just do it now.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that like you kind of have to be ready to do, and the best time to do it is now. I mean, like that's a good example because it's a damaging thing that the more you do it, not only the harder is it to quit, but the more damage you're doing to yourself.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that there's a requirement to accept personal responsibility.
Okay.
For yourself and what happens in your life. And when you accept personal responsibility for those things, then you don't make excuses for things. And when you don't make excuses, that means you don't rationalize why this shouldn't be done now. I think it's
the Big Dog pointed out another really good one. I've heard that so often where it's like, oh, I'm going to start my diet next week. That's why I'm eating this today. It's like, oh, I'm eating 2 pieces of cake after this meal because my diet starts next week. And it's like, well, if you really had an interest in losing weight or getting healthier or any of that, why would you not just start right now?
In those situations, I really feel like the most helpful thing to say is, no, you won't.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's usually what I do. Like, no, you won't. Like, I just tell them, like, you're not going to. Like, if you're not going to do it now, you won't do it then. It's very true.
Even when you're wrong, that's just a good motivator for them. There's a good motivation to prove someone wrong. So when someone else has like doubt in you or whatever, like your coworker that basically was telling that he didn't believe you could finish that 100-mile race, and that you like came back to show him that you were able to do it, and he was like, okay, and like you kind of realized, I was like, shit, he was doing that to motivate me, wasn't he?
You bastard, like, you manipulated me. I mean, it helped me achieve a goal, but god damn it, you manipulated me. Thanks, but fuck you, but thanks though. But for real though, fuck you, but thanks. It's like, and that's true. Like, I think that even if you tell somebody that no, you won't, that maybe they'll realize that what they just said was bullshit, or they'll think, oh, I'm going to prove that guy wrong, like I really will next week, or maybe I'll just put this cake down right now. Like, I don't think there's anything anything wrong with saying something negative that happens to be true.
Yeah.
Because if by your estimation, because it's pretty clear if someone says, I'll do that next week, it's like, well, no. Because you've clearly illustrated that you have the mentality that next week you'll say, I'll do that next week.
I mean, there are times that, okay, if someone is actually like scheduled time with a dietitian or things like that, it's like, okay, maybe there is an actual plan to start to something. But then again, it's like, well, why not go ahead and ease into it now? It's like that you don't have to like actually start your super strict diet, but it's like, if you really have a desire to lose weight or get healthier, go ahead and take the baby steps now, and then that's going to make the transition next week even easier. But.
Yeah, exactly. They could at least do something instead of just staying in the freaking weeds and doing what it is that they've continued to do in the same sort of frequency and amount as they have in the past. But it's like, one thing though is that I think that sometimes we look at people that seem like they're super busy and we think that they don't procrastinate. But there's a difference between being busy and actually getting things done.
Yes, yeah. You could be like treadmill busy, where you're just kind of like constantly scrambling, but not actually accomplishing anything. Yeah.
And actually, now that I mentioned that, I'd like to read something. So, are you familiar with Seneca, the philosopher?
Not the metal band? Yes.
Yeah, Seneca the Younger. He was regarded as a Stoic. So it's interesting because he's actually using this as an analogy for something else.
Okay.
But he makes really good points about the thing in the analogy.
Okay.
So since it's an analogy, he actually says, similarly, And then he goes on to talk about the thing. People who never relax and people who are invariably in a relaxed state merit your disapproval, the former as much as the latter. For a delight in bustling about is not industry, it is only the restless energy of a hunted mind. And the state of mind that looks on all activity as tiresome is not true repose, but a spineless inertia. This prompts me to memorize something which I came across in Pausanias, who's just another philosopher. I don't even know if his works are published right now. So this is what he said. Some men have shrunk so far into dark corners that objects in bright daylight seem quite blurred to them. A balanced combination of the two attitudes is what we want. The active man should be able to take things easily, while the man who is inclined towards repose should be capable of action. Ask nature. She will tell you that she made both day and night.
I like that. Yeah.
We come back to balance all the time on this podcast.
Very often, yeah.
But that's where the schedule thing goes. Like, so here's the thing. We had somebody ask a question about electronics addiction.
Yeah.
If you have more important achievements to overcome, here's the question. Are they important? Are you sure?
Yeah, because if they are important, well, okay. So I mean, if you've isolated that they are important, but you still struggle with, I'm assuming you mean by that you need to sit down and do something, but it's hard to put your phone down. Is that what you read from that?
It could be hard to put your phone down, hard to log off of World of Warcraft. Well, hey, actually, here, hold on. Here.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so you see this? You see it? Okay. If you're listening on Apple, I'm holding my smartphone. I just chucked my smartphone.
Nice throw.
Done. Yeah, I think it landed on the couch. What if it just like hit the bike and the bike fell off the wall?
I would have clipped that. That would have been awesome. But like even then though, like, okay, so let's say you just did that. Your phone's on the other side of the room and you're sitting down to study or you have something you need to write and then you hear the notification ding go off. There's that part of your brain that is like, oh shit, I need to go check that. You know what I mean? Like there is this like, we kind of have that baked into us now where there's this,
yeah,
we're so connected that it's hard to step away from that. Turning your phone off is hard, right? Like that's fucking hard.
Dude, are you gonna make me set my phone on fire on the air?
I'm trying to. Yeah, let's get to that. But no, like I have heard. What I wanted to get to though was I have heard of like a few apps. I've never actually used one, but there's a few apps that when you like load up the app, there's a timed amount of time. There's a timed period that your phone will not receive notifications, will not do anything, and there's like something that displays on the screen. Like one of them is it grows a tree. You start from like a little seed, and the amount of time that you spend not using your phone, you're working towards growing this tree. And I've heard of people using that for studying, where it's like, like, okay, here is a 20-minute block where I'm not going to be connected to things. I'm going to focus on what I'm doing right now. And then after that tree's done, okay, now I can take a short little break. I can check my phone. I can do other things. Like that's, I think, a really good step into breaking yourself from that habit of constantly being glued to your phone. Just like, I mean, like we talked about earlier at the library, it's not realistic to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to spend 2 solid hours working on this paper. Your mind is not, I mean, after, 30 minutes of really working on it, you're not going to be coming up with good ideas. You're going to be, working yourself dry. That sounded weird. The phrasing of that did not sound good. But
you'll be running on empty. There you go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, so like, I mean, things like that, little tricks. I mean, it's kind of funny that it's like electronics offers the solution to the problem that it's kind of created, right? But
yeah, it's like, the stuff that helps you quit smoking right next to the cigarettes.
Yep.
It's like similar. But I think the thing that drives me a little crazy is when people ask, like, it's an odd question to ask, how do I do this? Well, you do it. It's like, it's not like a super like difficult thing. It's like, you just have the discipline to do it. You don't take whatever excuse you think you have. Mm-hmm. You don't create whatever rationalization that you think you have. You just do it.
But that is one of those things that's easier said than done, though. Your cat is in the background sniffing your phone. That was adorable. He was like, why is this
Oh,
over here?
he's like, oh, like he's supposed to be glued to this, scrolling through things uselessly. Ooh, what's that video about?
Yeah.
The other thing that helps me is that the closest thing I have to a social networking anything is like YouTube. That's it. I don't have Facebook. I don't have a Instagram. I don't have really anything. So I'm like away from that stuff. I mean, you don't really have a choice because you have a stream and like, you have branding stuff you have to do. So it's different for you, Ty, but, or anyone else that uses it for business. And no, big dog, there's no such thing as multitasking. It's serial task switching. Everyone thinks they're good at multitasking and nobody is. In fact, I don't even use the term. It's not a thing. You can't actually do two things at once. And no, multitasking is a complete waste of time. Every task suffers.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's like you can't check your phone and cook a meal at the same time. You can't change the oil in your car and check your phone at the same time. And if you distract yourself from changing the oil in your car, it's just going to take longer and longer and longer.
I would disagree when it comes to like super menial tasks. Like when it comes like for instance, there's things at work that require absolutely no thought that I just kind of have to run through the motions and do. And I can very easily listen to a podcast or like listen to a video play while doing that. And I don't feel like the actual task suffers. But then whenever I really need to think, it's like, okay, this gets paused and now I need to focus on this. But
well, if you truly wanted to focus as much as you could and get everything you could out of the podcast, then it doesn't matter how menial the task is. Like you just can't do that.
Well, true. That's true.
And it's like something's going to suffer. Like there's no way that it won't.
Mm-hmm.
So the task that you're doing might not be that difficult, but you're probably not paying as much attention to the podcast as you probably like to be.
Yes.
At least by my estimation of it.
Well, yeah, that's probably true. It's like I'm looking at it like, okay, this activity may take 10% of my thought power. I'm going to sacrifice that 10% I could be getting from the podcast so I'm not bored during it. I guess like that's more what I'm looking at. But no, you're right, that task suffers. The menial task probably does not. But
it's the same thing. Like now Big Dog is asking the very personal question of, so my employees that stream on their phones while doing data entry are cheating me. It depends which task is suffering.
Yeah, just like what I was pointing out. Yeah, I don't feel like the task that I'm doing suffers. I feel like it's like, I'm just paying less attention to whatever media is going on in the background.
Yeah, but for the individual whose name I'm not even going to attempt because I think it might be a backwards transposition of a foreign word I don't know.
Well, earlier they called themselves Clap, I think. They said, "Hey, bro, it's Clap."
Oh, shoot, I know him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I didn't see that he actually said who it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess that means we won't be playing Rainbow Six as much now. That's great. Yeah, I know him from Siege. We actually played together the first time last night.
Oh, nice. Okay.
A couple other guys might come and jump in the chat too.
Sweet. Okay.
But I mean, the thing with well, actually, if he used the word motivate earlier, you should listen to our last podcast, which was motivation versus inspiration. Mm-hmm. So it's the Metacast podcast on Apple, or you can find it on here, or you can find it on YouTube. We're everywhere.
Yeah, that was episode 11.
Yeah, so that's a good one because it's about reasons, and I think that and tell me if you agree with this, Ty. I think that if you have a meaningful enough goal to you, that procrastination is not an issue, right? Because you kind of mentioned that earlier, like with stuff that you want to do versus like washing the dishes or doing the laundry. Yeah,
basically. And like I was touching on, if it's something that I have some passion for, it becomes really easy. Like for instance, the whole I know it's kind of a superficial thing, but the whole like goals I've set for myself in World of Warcraft, there has been a lot of times over the past few days or past few weeks that I did not want to play at all. And it became a very boring, very like tedious grind that I really didn't want to take part in, but I knew it was something that I wanted to get done. And even though it's a game that I'm supposed to be enjoying, there's long stretches of it that I definitely did not enjoy. But it was like, because it's something that I actually have a passion for, it was a lot easier to like make myself say, okay, no, we're going to play for 15 hours a day and get this done because you're looking at an end goal, versus if it was some other project for school or work or something, I probably would not have had that kind of motivation.
Yeah, and I can give a personal example also now that I think about it. So you might be able to relate to this. We were raised by the generation of people that fucked up the economy. So they didn't.
True.
Most of them generally did not do a very good job of teaching us anything about money. And I, for like the last I don't know, 3 years, have been like, I know I need to save money, but I really want that bike, or I really want that new headset, or
Nice.
like, hey, that pen looks really nice. I don't know. I can just worry about saving money another time. But when the goal went from you need to start saving money, or you need to figure out how to manage money better, to you need to make a budget and stick to that budget so you can save up enough money to make a down payment on a house in a couple of years. All of a sudden I give it a meaning.
Yeah.
So then it's that. So to me, like, I don't put it off anymore. It's like, yeah, well, that coffee looks great, but are you really going to pay $60 for 12 ounces of coffee, no matter what tiny little farm in the middle of Ethiopia it came from? Like, who cares how high the altitude is? Who cares how floral the aroma is? There's no reason for you to spend $60 on 12 ounces of coffee right now.
I think you really want that coffee.
I kind of do.
Yeah.
Sacrifice, man. Sacrifice.
True.
It's all about sacrificing, because the idea of later is something that we had to realize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And as children, we don't. Like, the 4-year-old that suddenly is in a whole lot of shit because they covered the cat in toothpaste. I don't know. They were just doing some weird impulsive thing. They're like, what happens if I put this shit on the cat?
That was very specific. Did you cover your cat in toothpaste when you were a child?
It's a long story.
Okay.
A girl that I dated had her daughter covered her cat in toothpaste.
Okay.
So then it's like, now all of a sudden, like, oh crap, mommy has found the toothpaste on the cat, and now I am in a whole bunch of shit. That 4-year-old had no freaking clue later was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then when later happened, it was now. And like, well, now really sucks. And she might not have even had any kind of realization of before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even when like the thing was happening. So it's just something like where I think that a lot of the procrastination comes from us not thinking about later. Yeah. So it's like, the most mundane thing I can think of is cleaning your place. I think most people procrastinate on that. Most people dislike cleaning their apartment or their house or whatever. So it's like, a lot of people don't realize how good it is for your attitude and your mood and your mental health to have a clean living space. So if I vacuum the rug right now, get all the freaking cat litter off of it, and it looks nice and pleasing, then I don't have to do it later. Yeah. And I'll also be pleased at the fact that things are neat. If I go ahead and, I don't know, tune the shifter on my bicycle and lubricate the chain now, well, then it'll be in good mechanical condition the next time I feel like just jumping on and riding it. I don't have to do anything about it. Yeah. So I think that when we want to procrastinate, if we think about, if I do this now, later it will be done, and then it just won't be hanging over anymore. But it also it's a sense of urgency too. Yeah. Yeah. And that sense of urgency should come from the fact that you're gonna fucking die.
Well, that's and go ahead.
And some people might try to take the nihilistic perspective and talk themselves into insignificance because eventually they will die. So what does it matter? And blah 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 blah. But right now it matters. So do it now.
I do know. I wouldn't call it nihilistic though, but a depressing thought and realization that I've had is a lot of the shit that should have been done either in school or things like that. Like I actually more like specifically school. I didn't really believe in myself enough to think that later was a possibility. That it was like there's no guarantees to where it's like, okay, I'm going to really try hard in this class because when I graduate with this degree, I'm going to get this awesome job. You know what I mean? Like I never believed that was actually going to happen. So that took away a lot of the motivation from trying to get things done and probably caused me to procrastinate a lot in college, especially.
Yeah, I don't know how many people say to themselves, like, I'm going to get a job at an economics company doing economics in the economics department.
Yeah. That's what I thought I was gonna do.
I'm
Come
sorry,
on, that
I'm
was my
such an
dream, man.
asshole. I'm such a terrible person.
No. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. No, I mean that was
Yeah.
like, I mean, my switch to economics was, you know, kind of like a thing of necessity. That wasn't like what I set into school
Yeah.
to do, but yeah. But no,
And,
no, yeah.
even if it doesn't lead somewhere, it can also, if it's a degree or any number of other things, even if it doesn't necessarily lead somewhere, it can still be beneficial to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can still have something to use later, or some kind of understanding of something that you might not have had otherwise, that if nothing else could make you much more interesting to a group of strangers in a bar, you know.
Did you ever see the I'm sure you did, the movie Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes, it's been a while, but yes, I've seen it.
I've always thought like that not that like that movie like changed my life or anything, but I loved the kind of the moral that it's like all these little things you learned can come back later in a way that you didn't really expect to be beneficial. And like, just like you're saying, like, yeah, things that I could have learned in class, like it may not be like, oh, that I'm actually going to work in the field of economics, but it's like study habits or facts or things that I've learned that could end up, you know, benefiting me in some way.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things in the world is when a small child asks why the sky is blue, and then I tell them why. And like, actually why, because, you know, the ozone actually scatters the light in a specific fashion,
Mhm.
in which the only wavelength of light that actually get to your eye are the blue ones.
Yeah.
And the reason why the sunset's a different color is because it's going through more ozone at a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks different. And then it's just so much fun to see the kid's mouth hanging open, like, why don't you just tell me? Because it reflects the ocean like all the other old people.
Yeah.
It's like, this is ruined.
Well, then why is the ocean blue?
Yeah, but then there's that too. That's a good rebuttal, actually.
Because it reflects the sky, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not circular logic. There's nothing circular about that logic at all. But it tickles me to death, because, you know, when I actually learned that, like, I think I have, it's around here somewhere. My sister got me, it was called the Handy Science Answer Book.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
I was like 10 or 11 when she got it for me, and that was one of the things that was in there. But it's just so, it is so interesting to me that the things that seem insignificant can come back and be useful later. But I think the ability to just do it now is important, and it's something that we should just have the discipline to do. I do not remember her name for the life of me, but she does like life coaching type crap, and she was talking about this whole 5-second thing.
Okay.
Where a lot of us have the problem, the alarm goes off, you hit the snooze button, and then it goes off again, and you immediately jump out. I'm just kidding. You hit the snooze button again, and then it goes off, and you hit the snooze button again, and then the dog jumps on the bed and starts licking you, and you're like, oh, maybe I should wake up. And then you roll back over, and then 5 minutes later, the dog jumps on top of you and starts licking you again, and finally wakes you up, and you realize that it's like 45 minutes after the alarm went off. And she was talking about how that whole idea of like immediately rolling over, hitting the snooze button, that one morning she did this thing where she was like, I'm going to do this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just got out of bed.
Okay.
So she started doing that with everything.
Okay.
So it's like you've got 5 seconds to just do it before some kind of inhibitory part of your brain's going to step in and stop you.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 5 seconds. Or it's like the thing that, you know, me and another one of our friends do if we're about to do something crazy or difficult or whatever. We'll count to 3 in French.
Oh, was that her name? Mel Robbins?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I think that is her name. Yes.
Okay.
But we'll be like, we'll just go on deux trois and like do whatever thing we're gonna do.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
not letting
French?
Yourself like delay or like the fear set in or anything. Like, yeah.
Like, why French? Why 3? I don't know. It's just something we came up with.
Okay.
And typically, I mean, it's not anything interesting. It's usually doing a shot of something sadistic, or whatever, or like eating something weird, like the first time we had sea urchin or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's just a way that you just say like, this will happen when I count on 5, this will occur, and you just do it. Or you can do it before then. But yeah, it's like the thing is though, like the other part of this discussion is work ethic, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think
what does that even mean?
Well, I think they're somehow related, but they're definitely different. They're different islands in the same sea, I would say. Like my main thought is, I mean, work ethic, I don't know if it's the same as like personal responsibility, but I've noticed like there seems to be 2 different groups of people at every job I've ever had, where there's one person that it's completely fine to just say like, oh, that's not my problem. And there's other people that there's a actual feeling of personal responsibility that you can't just let shit go by without addressing it. And I don't know, it seems to be a weird like division. I'm not sure if that's just intrinsic to people or if it's something they learn. Is it a nature versus nurture thing is really what I want to explore there.
Well, I think that there's a degree of like conscientiousness sort of attached to that. It's like, like, do you really, well, hold on, I'm going to do the thing that we always do here.
Oh, we're going to define work ethic?
Hell yeah.
Nice. Good. Okay.
According to dictionary.com, work ethic is a noun. The principle that hard work is intrinsically virtuous or worthy of reward.
Okay.
So then conscientiousness, as I'm talking about here, is wishing to do what is right, especially to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly. And then there's a second definition, just means relating to a person's conscience. So I think that when someone thinks of something as being their responsibility to get something done, as opposed to it's not my problem, I think that's more related to someone actually being conscientious, like thinking that they need to do what's right, what they believe is ethically or morally correct in the situation, or even someone that has beliefs of what's ethically or morally correct. Some people don't care. But the whole idea of work ethic is like a very it's a very I hate the term, but I'll use it anyway, greatest generation thing.
Yeah, it kind of is, right?
Yeah. And it's like when I was young, it's funny because you talk about like the greatest generation in America, and it's funny because a lot of immigrants have that mentality.
Oh yeah.
So like when I was young, my dad was pretty much like, you deserve nothing. It's like, okay. It's like, you deserve absolutely nothing if you don't work for it. You have to work for everything. And then when you work and then you have the things that you work for, you will have an intense sense of pride.
Yeah. Well, yeah, earning things is definitely better than having it handed to you. I think that you can see with just how people are able to handle money whenever it's like, if you win the lottery versus earn a fortune. It's like there are 2 completely different ways that happens. Like,
so I think it's actually, and also, I mean, not to mention, people tend to get like really, really depressed when they win the lottery. There's data on it. Not that green skin guy from Star Trek. I mean, information. God, I can't believe I just said that. I'm such a dork. So I'm glad that when you originally mentioned this to me, that work ethic was something that you mentioned as part of the subject of the conversation, because if you decide, because this is so interesting because I've never heard it defined this way. So I just thought work ethic just meant you were just someone that you were just a hardworking person. That's just you. But the fact that it's a principle, defined as a principle, that hard work is intrinsically virtuous, meaning that it in itself is just an act of virtue, like self-evidently virtuous, or worthy of reward. It's if you use that as a principle for your life, then procrastination just won't happen.
Exactly.
Or if it does, it'll be minimal.
Well, that's interesting, because like until you read that definition, I think I've been using that term incorrectly the entire time. I think I have been thinking more of just being conscientious, like you're saying. I do like that what you pointed out, the intrinsic value of work rather than it just being a means to an end. It's actually the like seeing the value in the work itself.
Yeah. When I was really young, maybe like 8 or 9 years old. So my grandfather on my mom's side, he's like I think he was a second generation American, but
Okay.
he was mostly Irish. And there was a little bit of Scottish and German in there, I think.
Okay.
He one of my older cousins who got to be around him in his younger years when he was pretty more good Lord, when he was a lot more I guess vital and much more energetic. She said that one of his principles was, I think it's actually an Amish thing, that a man's worth is earned by the sweat of his brow.
I have heard that. Yeah.
So it's just something that I heard, at some point, and I didn't really understand it at the time because I was quite young. I was in the single digits when she said that to me. That was one of the things that our grandfather believed. By the way, I have cousins that are older than my parents, so that's weird. Strange, huh?
Yeah, that is kind of strange.
Yeah. So, or at least one of my parents, anyway, not both of them. So, and that is like sort of the idea that not just that work is beneficial for you or that it's good for you, but it's actually to go so far as to call it virtuous.
Yeah.
Like it's a showing of virtue. Like work is up there with generosity and integrity. It's a quality that's just as important. Sorry, I'm doing it again. I sound like a dogmatic fanboy, but in 12 Years for Life by Jordan Peterson, one of his rules is do what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Okay. Yeah.
Because shit that's easy, no one cares about.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, it's the whole like, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There's a reason why certain things are respected or revered, and it's because it's something that's difficult to do. Like you don't. Nothing that's easy to come by means much, really, right?
It's true. Yeah, it's like I woke up today and I breathed air.
Yeah, you're gonna get a round of applause for that from no room ever.
Thank you. Okay, nothing. Yeah. It's I mean, I realize I'm being hyperbolic on purpose, but there's a lot of stuff that you just don't really get any credit for. And it's funny because even like I woke up and vacuumed the floor in my apartment. Like, okay.
Yeah, but
like no one cares.
Well, but like we pointed out earlier, though, you should care. That is something that I mean, even though that's menial, it's something worth something.
But here's the thing, though. If we're using this definition of work ethic, no matter what, if you did work that achieved a result that was beneficial, you have done something virtuous.
Correct. Yeah.
You have shown virtue in the fact that you are doing work. So if we look at the scenario, you're at the mall, some old guy drops his wallet, you pick the wallet up, you're a curious creature, you open it, there's $180 in there. I'll be honest, I'll probably keep it. I'm just being honest.
I'd give that guy his wallet and his $100 back.
Yeah, it's like, here you go. There were $40 in there. It's fine. It's cool. Or just his wallet and his ID. So I mean, I'd like to think that I would do the right thing, but the easiest thing and the thing that would be most immediately gratifying to me would be to take that dude's money.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he dropped it. It's not like I stole it, like all these different things that I could do. So, but because what we think of when you see someone, hey, sir, you dropped your wallet, without even looking in it, or even more so if you looked in it and realized how much freaking money there was in there, didn't take a dime and gave it back to him. If you think of doing a task or not doing a task in the same way as that behavior, illustrating virtue, then it should push you toward that. Like you have done something that is morally or ethically proper by doing work.
Yeah. Well, and that's also like we pointed out earlier, feeds into the procrastination thing, where if you actually see the task as rather than something that's to be avoided, but something that is actually beneficial and has virtue to it, is there a a higher chance that you're going to do it expediently, like and actually get it done quickly rather than putting it off?
I would say so. I mean, I would think that if somebody perceives it in that fashion, then it gives you a reason,
Hmm.
a motivation, like an actual reason to do it.
I'm gonna have to try to start looking at things that way, right? Like rather than looking at tasks at work as just something that I need to get done. That like, oh well, I'll put this in my schedule somehow and I'll make sure I get it done. But actually, like something that no, there's a benefit to this just in the actual task itself.
I will be a better human at the end of this task than I was at the beginning of it, regardless of what it is and how much time it takes.
Mm-hmm. Unless you work as like a hitman, that might be I don't know if that's going to make you a better human, right? But
yeah, I mean, you should. I watched an interesting presentation on what actual hitmen are like, as opposed to like the romanticized Armani suit, cufflink, sexy guys.
Yeah,
with the sexy pistols with the noise suppressor on them. Most of them are actually bumbling dipshits.
Where was this presentation? What was this?
It was on YouTube. It was something from like the 90s on like Dateline or some shit. I can't remember.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll find it later if you're interested. But yeah, apparently being a hitman's not quite so glamorous. But yes, we can agree that if you are a hitman, then no, your work is probably not a virtuous thing. But mowing the lawn or cleaning out the garage or repairing that portion of your car, or I don't know, giving your dog a bath. All these tasks, all these efforts, all these things you do make you a better human.
Yeah.
And if we regard it that way, then I think that's a really good way to push us to do things.
So then on the other side of that is are the distractions and falling victim to them, does that make you a worse person, or is that simply a neutral act? Are you bypassing something that's going to make you a better person, or do you think it actively deteriorates or takes away from your net virtue?
A balanced combination of the two attitudes is what we want. The active man should be able to take things easily, while the man who is inclined towards repose should be capable of action. Ask nature. She will tell you that she made both day and night.
Okay, yeah, true.
So I just quote Seneca again. But I would say that as long as it's not a distraction, perhaps if it's planned leisure time.
Yes.
Like at this time, I get 90 minutes of whatever the fuck I want. Like you take those 90 minutes and just piss it away. Just make it your gambling money, like time. Just like, I'm just going to go do whatever. Like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna go Google interesting things to do with peanut shells. I don't know, and then find myself somewhere else. I think that there's nothing wrong with tasks that are leisure, as long as they're leisure and not distraction.
Yeah, and as long as there's that balance there, it's as long as it's you have your leisure time and then you also have your time to get shit done. The hard part that I have though is like I'm not horrible at making a schedule or things like that, but when it gets to the end of that 90 minutes and you're really enjoying what you're doing, I mean, I know your answer is going to be just do it, but it's like, how do you really get yourself to break away from it? It's like, okay, it's getting near the end of those 90 minutes. You're on a 3-game win streak in Siege. How do you tell yourself that you're not going to just play one more game? It's like, what is the, other than, I mean, of course the simple answers are just, it's discipline, just make yourself do it. But like, are there really any tricks or anything you can go to that will make that easier, even though it's simple? Like,
I think for me personally, it's because actually I think that actually happened last night. Actually, one of the if Clap is still on here, I think that happened when I was like, I got one more game in me, and then we like did okay, and I was like, I can maybe play one more.
Yeah,
so like I totally did that last night. So it might have been the night before. I can't remember, but for me, I think that at least personally, it would help me if I regard my act as being weak. If I continue to play this game, then that will erode my virtue and will make me a weaker human. But if I am to do this other task now and quit this thing that I am enjoying, it shows that I have a degree of virtue and a degree of strength or tenacity to be able to break myself away from this enjoyable thing to then do this next thing. And honestly, man, like, I struggle with procrastination just like every other human does, right? So it's not like it doesn't happen to me. I mean, we talked about that at the beginning. So the thing is I'm actually finding a lot of this discussion beneficial to me personally, not just attempting to be of value or be a benefit to listeners and viewers alike. But I'm actually finding that, these are things I've never even thought before. So I mean, just to make it clear, like that I have failed in the exact scenario you're talking about. Like a win streak in a video game that I like, and I actually did it. So it was like, okay, just one more. But when I said one more, it really was just one more.
Okay. But is it because you lost that next game?
Actually, we did.
Yeah. See, that's how...
If we'd won, I mean, maybe I would have continued. I don't know.
Yeah, I like what the big dog just said there. Proving to yourself you can be disciplined makes you stronger. I mean, it's not. I mean, there is the discipline itself, but like you're saying, there's a lot that comes from proving to yourself that you can do it. Yeah, I think that's almost worth almost as much as the discipline itself. The knowledge that you are, strong in that way. You have some tenacity there.
Yeah, work out that discipline muscle.
So that's, I mean, it does come back to avoiding procrastination, trying to work harder, those things. Like, I mean, you answered it. The simple answer is just do it. But that is, for some reason, so difficult for a lot of people. It's simple, but it's difficult. And they're like, other than, I wish that, that we need like a magic pill that you can just take the pill and all of a sudden it gives you, a raging discipline boner. Like we need a Viagra for discipline. Unfortunately, I don't think that exists. I think it has to be like baby steps to get to, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to just wake up one day and all of a sudden be able to just get everything you need to do done and never fall victim to procrastination or distractions or things like that. Like that's not realistic. But I think that every little victory where, for instance, you're supposed to sit down and work on a task for 20 straight minutes and you hear your phone go off 5 minutes in. If you can ignore that for the next 15 minutes, finish out those 20 minutes and then go to your phone, that is one small victory that's going to put you one step closer to the goal of being a disciplined person.
Agreed. That's a very good point. Also, I'm still stuck on the fact that you just said raging discipline boner. I don't think anyone's ever said that ever. I think you're the first person to ever say that phrase.
I really hoped we could just go right by that without having to circle back, but I'm
sorry I had to. But yeah, I mean, you do make a valid point because even if you can, there's we were talking about Jocko Willink earlier.
Yeah,
and he talks about procrastination, and he says that the one thing I want you to put off till tomorrow is taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
And if when tomorrow comes, you still feel like you need a break, then maybe you need to think about things and, maybe just simmer down for a little bit and take yourself a little break.
Mm-hmm.
But more than likely, when you get to tomorrow, you won't feel that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what you're doing is actually you're talking about procrastinating on the thing that's not good.
Yeah.
So it's like 15 minutes, because it's interesting to think that it kind of works both ways. That you can either push off the thing that you have a desire to do that may not be beneficial, or you can do the thing now that will be beneficial to you. So I like that you actually did that because I didn't even think about it that way till just now. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's just a little step.
Yeah.
Or if you decide, well, never mind, because the other way around, you pretty much just have to do it now. It's just that simple. Like, I mean, have the discipline to do it now, or just don't. And I think that there's some people that just don't have it, and I've learned that over time. That there's some individuals that like they won't allow themselves to ever truly overcome putting stuff off till later. I mean, some people just don't have it.
But you don't think like it's an intrinsic thing? Like they still have the capacity to learn or develop it. They just may not be willing to put the work in to develop that. Like you said, the discipline.
Yeah,
right?
I think some people just don't want to. They just really don't want to. There's actually there's a scene in Star Trek 6 where that's right, I'm making a Star Trek reference, where there is a
Was that Search for Spock? Which one was 6?
That was oh crap. I can't remember which one it was. I don't know. Google that shit.
The Undiscovered Country. Okay.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say, but I wasn't sure if that was the title or not. So like, there's a part where there's some Klingon ambassadors on the ship, and they end up getting assassinated. And so the Dr. McCoy and Spock and the captain are, I think that Dr. McCoy's the one that discovers them, or maybe it was Scotty. They're like in a room, and there's two of the people that were thought to have been the assassins. They're found dead.
Okay.
And or maybe it was like they got vaporized. I can't remember. They were freaking dead. So then what they do is they make this announcement across the entire ship. Now hear this, ensign such and such and such and such, will be their statements will be given, and they ask a specific person to report to sickbay. So then there's another Vulcan on the ship, a female Vulcan, actually played by Kim Cattrall.
Oh, really?
From Sex and the City. Yes, she plays a Vulcan.
Okay.
And so she shows up with a phaser to clean up the job because she was the person behind the assassination.
That's clever.
Spoiler, sorry. So she's pointing the phaser at who she thinks is one of the ensigns who she needs to, clean her tracks up with. It's not. It's Spock. And so then he gets up and he goes, "If you are logical, you will shoot." And then she says, "I don't want to." And he says, "What you want is irrelevant. What you have chosen is at hand." And then he like makes it, because he's half human, so he makes like a and kind of slaps the phaser out of her hand, looking a little pissed off because that's the human side of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing that she, like, what if you don't? She's saying like, if you're logical, you'll shoot me because this will. Then one of the few individuals that actually knows that you have committed this crime will now be dead.
Yeah.
But you don't want to. Well, who cares? You've chosen this. You decided to be an accessory to an assassination. So what you want is irrelevant. What you have chosen is at hand. So if you're someone who you don't want to mow the lawn, who fucking wants to mow the lawn? Nobody wants to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
But it needs to be done. So like, what you want doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's a thing that you've chosen to do or to be that is the important thing. It's the image of your ideal self, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Or like we said earlier, I mean, if you want to grow as a person, look at the fact that doing these tasks that you don't actually want to do are going to help you get there. They're little bits of like, I like to gamify things. I mean, I've been a gamer for so long that it's like, they're little victory points. They're little virtue points. Every little meaningless task I do like that is going to give me, 5 and like I'm working towards leveling up my virtue skill. And like if I gamify things like that, sometimes it helps me just get shit done, like to give myself a little like incentive that doesn't actually exist, but it's a way to to motivate, I guess.
I was listening to a comedian today. I don't remember his name, but he was talking about how life is just a bunch of chores.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm not endorsing this. Like, please don't take Adderall for fun. But he says something about like, but there's a drug you can take that makes you feel like every chore is a fucking video game that you're stuck in the middle of. And I'm pretty sure he was talking about Adderall. I don't know for sure.
He might have been talking about cocaine, but they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like
so either way, we're not endorsing the use of any kinds of illegal substances, but
yeah.
It just made me think of that because of the video game reference. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a decent way to put it, or a decent way to think about it. And it's like, that guy Tim Urban, I listened to the TED Talk about procrastination.
Yeah.
He used the TED Talk as an example.
Okay.
Like, so when they invited me to come, I thought, I've always wanted as a goal in life to have done a TED Talk in the past.
Yeah.
So it's like he's like, I wanted to say that I did it, but I did, just to know that I'd done it, but not actually do it. So it's like I don't remember the guy's name. I think he calls himself E.T. He's a motivational speaker.
Okay.
If you want to be a beast, you've got to do what beasts do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you're saying, like no one wants to mow the yard, but I think everyone wants to be someone that gets the shit done when it needs to be gotten done. Without even going to everyone wants to be the guy with a nice yard. Like, I don't even know if that's true, but everyone wants to be someone that handles their shit, right? I don't know if that's a blanket statement I can make though. I feel like most people do at least. But.
Well, if you don't want to be someone that handles your shit, then you just won't handle your shit. You'll probably be miserable and have less of a quality of life than people that do handle their shit. You won't have the trappings of a life led with little to no procrastination.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do think that there are probably large groups of people out there that just don't care enough, and whether it be actual diagnosable depression or what, but I mean, there's got to be multiple people that just they actually don't give a shit. So it's like some sort of motivation or anything like that is not really going to help. But I feel like anyone that would search a video about this or listen to a podcast about it has like some sort of drive, even if they're struggling with procrastination, they've got some sort of drive to overcome it.
I would think so, yeah. And but I really do. I truly believe that the individuals who don't care and who wouldn't have any desire to be different probably end up paying for it later.
Yeah.
Multiple times, in their life. That, maybe in the moment on whatever occasion, they decide to not care about whatever thing. Maybe they're not quite as unhappy as the person doing the task, but they'll never feel the satisfaction of something being completed that you have done, like with your own hand or with your own abilities or talents. They'll never unlock the real virtue of having a good work ethic.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because it's so hilarious because work ethic, it's in the freaking word.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I just realized that.
Yeah, I feel kind of stupid that never really occurred to me. That I feel like honestly, I've been using that term incorrectly for always and forever. I was today years old when I learned what that actually meant, I guess. But.
Same. Yeah. Ethics, moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Mm-hmm. Or the branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. It's the virtue of work.
Yeah.
It's freaking crazy. The moral of hard work.
So I do like what we've the prescriptions we've come to, where I liked the who was it? It was Mel Robbins' idea, the 5-second thing, which I think that's really strange. Like you brought it up. I must be a freak. I'm not perfect at all. I struggle with procrastination and shit just like everyone, but I have never been someone who ever hits the snooze alarm. It's like I know that it's like when my alarm goes off, like I need to get up and I need to get ready for whatever I need to do. I mean, of course, if it's a day that I literally have nothing to do, I'll go back to bed, but I don't actually hit the snooze alarm. It's just that it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to sleep and turn the alarm off. But if it's like a work day or anything, I don't even know if my phone has a snooze function. Oh, I guess it has to, like it's an iPhone, but I've never once used that. It seems to be very common that people do that though.
I hit the snooze button so many times this morning.
Really?
I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, that made me weak. It did. I lost some ethical points there. My ethics skill suffered.
For me, it's never seemed to be worth it though, because it's like the snooze alarm. It's what, like 10 minutes, if that. I don't think I'm even gonna fall back asleep in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So it's
well,
like
it makes more sense to wake up, change the alarm to 30 minutes later, and then go back to sleep. But if you're doing that, you may as well just wake up and get out of bed.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I didn't even think to mention this, but I should have. There's one thing that I've done. I have this clock that the brightness on the clock, it's about that big. It's like a circular looking thing, and there's like a little spot where the time is, and the brightness is meant to be adjusted to where you can only see it when it's completely dark.
Okay.
And it has a light, like a super bright light on it. Don't know how many lumens, but you can set it like 1 through 10 brightness.
Okay.
And what it'll do is, like, I think 15 or 20 minutes before you wake up, it'll start to slowly increase the brightness level.
Yeah.
And that actually helps a lot with waking up. Like, you know how I said the thing about like sometimes I'll just get super disciplined for a while and just get in a really strict routine. Well, when I'm doing that, I'm usually waking up at like 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and it's dark usually at that time. That really helps me to wake up in the morning.
Well, that's
actually, I should be using that now, and I haven't used it. I'm going to use that tomorrow. Practicing what I preach.
That's how I wake up every morning. All of the, I mean, you know how my room is set up with all the, like, 16 million color lights and everything. Like, it's great for the multicolor and all that, but my favorite functionality is I can set it as my alarm, and they do that. All 15 lights in my room will start 30 minutes before I'm supposed to wake up at as dim as they can be, and they slowly get brighter and brighter. And I haven't woken up to an alarm sound in months ever since I installed these, and I love that. I think that's
cool.
Like, yeah, like naturally waking up to a light gradually getting brighter is so much better than a jarring like noise like that.
Yeah. And if you don't have $8,000 to spend on lights,
we're not that much.
The little clock that I have was like $60, so there's that. Okay. Pretty sure it's made by Philips. We are not sponsored by anyone.
My lights are made by Philips too.
Oh my God, we're not sponsored by anyone.
Philips Hue, please sponsor me. I could really use that. I want more lights.
Yeah. We're not sponsored yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're working on it. We're working on it.
But yeah,
wow,
I do.
This Brita filtered water sure is great.
Nice. I think I have those same glasses. I just noticed that, but I really think I have those exact same glasses. I like it.
Oh, I was trying to figure out who they were made by.
I thought you were going to throw it over your shoulder like your phone.
That would have been hilarious.
Oh, man. But yeah, I do think, we've touched on a few good ways to start to make changes. And unfortunately, like we said, the only real thing you can do is just fucking do it. You need to start doing it now. You need to stop putting things off. And it's tough to hear because that's, it's the same with weight loss. Like, how do you lose weight? Oh, well, usually you eat less and move more. There's no magic answer you're going to get. It's just kind of like there's no cheat code. There's a simple answer to it. The hard part is making yourself actually do it. But
that's true.
The benefit that you're going to get from making yourself do it is worth so much. It's worth way more than the price that you're going to pay by suffering through doing something you don't really want to do or don't feel like doing. I think the net gain is always there. It's always a net positive no matter what.
Yeah. So just fucking do it because the net gain is much, much higher than the net loss.
Exactly. Do you have any closing thoughts? I want to know where you want to close this out at. Jeez.
The only thing I think I would say is just do it right now.
Sponsored
not later. Now, it needs to be done. Just do it. And no matter what you're doing, drop everything and do whatever you realize needs to be done now. Not forever, but just do it.
Yeah. And yeah, like we talked about earlier, I think a very beneficial thing is create a schedule for yourself. But don't forget to schedule in the things that you really want to do. You can't create a schedule that is, 8 hours of sleep and then 16 hours a day of these tasks that you need to get done. Budget in the time to be yourself, to do the things that you want to do. And that way a schedule is not going to be something that's intimidating and it won't feel unnatural. But yeah, just start getting the things done that you need to do and schedule it. That's the best advice that I've got. So we've reached the end of another episode of the Metacast podcast. If you guys are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the conversation, hit that like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below. And I'd like to know your thoughts on how work ethic, conscientiousness, and procrastination, how have they affected you, and have you done anything to overcome them? Do you like the advice that we've given, or do you feel like there's better advice out there? If you guys are interested in taking further part in the conversation, or even being a guest on a future episode, join our Discord. Our Discord. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode live Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylerTV. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.